would love to see your beautiful faces. If you'd like to unmute your cameras.
Yes,
Thank you,
I'm wearing my
guys.
special shirt that I wear when I teach scientific writing. So I wear my well-read shirt.
I love it. That's
It's
cute.
false advertisement because I don't even drink wine, but you know, it's so cool. I just love that. Hello, everybody. Thanks for turning your cameras on. You don't have to. So if you haven't brushed your hair, it's okay.
Yeah, we're
So
family
should I
now.
just jump in? Oh, I know that guy. Oh, by the way, if this is very confusing, if my Windows says Balša Terzic, it's because I'm using his account. You might have noticed to share a last name, and he's not my brother. Yes.
So, Denise, we just really want to thank you for coming and sharing your expertise with us today. Denise is a professor over at Christopher Newport University. For those of you who are local, you recognize the name. For those of you who are not, this is right in our backyard and just creating and offering some really neat opportunities for students in relationship with the lab as well. So we have a treat today to help us with our technical writing skills. And I did say technical writing skill. I didn't say talent. This is something that is learned, acquired, practiced, struggled with, as I know you guys have with your abstracts to some degree. But all of this really goes to practice makes perfect. So Denise is going to spend some time with us today, helping us get more perfecter. That's a real word, actually. Just two housekeeping things I want to share with you. You can thank Jalen. She went and lobbied for you to have your abstract turned in just a little bit later. And that abstract will still be a rainbow abstract. That way we can identify where you think you're articulating the rubric, and it helps with our ease of assessment as we're reviewing that for you. And then the second thing is for the poster peer review, when we do that next Tuesday, that does not mean a completed poster. That means you've thought about your poster, you have some headings, maybe your abstract is thrown up there, and the rest of it might be bulleted in those sections, like perhaps bulleted for your results or your conclusion. You probably could handle doing your acknowledgement section, but the time that you're going to spend together is not just like looking at the poster, but way of the poster. So don't fret. If you do have questions like that, I have some extra office hours, and of course the rest of the team can answer your questions as well. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it right over to Denise. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. So, as Lisa said, that I teach at Christopher Newport University, and so my husband, Balša Terzic, he said, hey, you teach this scientific writing class, right? Would you like to teach that? But you know, I teach my one semester class. Of course, my students write some piece, I comment on it, and then they change it because they are just looking for that grade, right? It depends on what's your goal. For them is, I want to pass this class because I need it to graduate. But when I do that with them, it takes a whole semester. And of course, I'm going to compress a whole semester in 1 hour, well, 2 hours with you guys, 1 hour today, 1 hour Friday. So the way I thought about this was, today I'll just go over scientific or technical writing in general, and then on Fridays when I'm going to show you what I know from Zotero. And full disclaimer, I used EndNote to write like my master's thesis, my PhD dissertation. And EndNote is kind of pricey. I don't know how much it costs now because I did my master's in 2002 anyway. And so when I did my PhD, I had to buy a new one altogether because it changed so much. But the good thing about Zotero, which is the reference manager that maybe I'll introduce it to you, maybe you already know it, that is free. So I use that with my research students, and even if it's just to keep your literature review, your papers organized, you can use it for that. Or you can upload files and then you have your data files stored in there. So you can make groups. I make a group if you want to jump in, but mostly the papers that I added to my library for this group, I papers on how to use Zotero. So I made a Zotero library on how to use Zotero. But the Zotero part will be Friday. And if you already use it, you might even be better than me. So whenever I'm like, I don't remember how to do this step, then you help me. If not, you will, I think you're going to become proficient as you use it. So let's jump into the part for today, which is scientific writing, like how to in general. And if you can participate, I will be monitoring the chat if you don't want to speak up. But I like when I have my class, my students participate in whatever we are doing. So let's see. Oh, no, wait. I first need to share the screen. That one. Okay. Let me make this smaller. So this is our today workshop. And when Jaylee and I started writing to each other, I would ask her, who are the people that are enrolled in this workshop? So I will say this again later, but one of the things that you want to keep in mind when you're writing something is who's going to read this? You know, for whom, how much knowledge do they already know about this? And since I don't really know you guys, I don't know if I'm actually going to say anything new. Maybe you're like, oh my gosh, I already know all this. But hopefully I will point you to some resources towards the end. They're like, okay, I like checklists. I'm like, I like checklists too. So I asked who's taking this workshop and what do they want to accomplish. So those are the two main things that I think that you should keep in mind is who's your audience and what's your goal with your writing. So here's just an icebreaker. You will see some references to these cartoons. It's called XKCD. That's like one of my favorite cartoons. The guy that writes it is Randall Moreau. He graduated from the university where I teach, graduated from CNU with a physics degree. He worked for NASA. I don't know if he still does. But in any case, check it out. And I'm going to read on the chat. Thinking about the research you're doing now, which of these papers would you be writing?
I like that title, The Immune System is at it again. That one's a good one.
Yes. Yeah, thanks, Beth, for chiming in. Yeah, Justin, too. Oh, wait, let me minimize this.
And Denise, I hope you don't mind, but we also decided that we were going to invite some of our high school interns as well, so that they could just kind of get an idea of technical writing and glean from your wisdom that you're
Oh,
sharing.
wow, okay, well, sounds good. Sounds good when you say it. Yeah, all my wisdom.
Yes.
Move this here. Yeah. Let's see. I like seeing what. So Randall Moreau, he basically classified these are the kinds of papers you could write, but of course there's more than that. But I thought that was a pretty good summary of what kinds of papers exist. Yes, we scanned some undergrads. Actually, in psychology, many papers that are published are a group of undergraduate students answered this survey because the university has a professor doing research, and then there's these free subjects right there. All right, so I think hopefully you had some fun with that. I'm going to share the link of this presentation with you because there will be links that you will need to click. I just ask that you don't advance ahead of me because then they're like things that I hide and I show later, and then it's kind of like breaks the magic, I guess. All right, so this was what I was asking myself, like why are these people taking this workshop? Because I want to know what can I say that might be new, and maybe the RU students already know a lot of the things that I'm saying, maybe the SULI students, but maybe this is new for high schoolers. Since I don't know you, I was like, I'm going to start with very basic and then provide some tools. But I'm going to look on the chat. Why are you participating in this workshop? Like, I guess, what's your motivation, or what do you hope to learn from this? So, Jalen, to be a better technical writer, yeah, as everything, you get better as you practice, right? It's like, am I going to get stronger, go to the gym, or going to become a better writer and write some more? I guess find balance, but yeah, as Lisa said, this skill is not an art. All right, so thank you guys for answering questions in the chat. Okay, so hopefully I'm giving you some advice that will be useful. So here is another comic I like, is PhD Comics. I don't know where you are in your writing career, but you might be feeling like Cecilia, this girl. And I don't know if you feel like that or not, but writing should be so easy. And for some people it is. My PhD advisor, he could sit down and I would spend a whole morning writing my abstract, and he would sit down and write one sentence that summarizes everything so much better. And I was like, oh. But with this, I'm supposed to be scaring you about writing. And this is one of the techniques of trying to sell your message, is create a need and then offer something to satisfy that need. So this is when you see commercials. Don't you hate when, I don't know, people put mayonnaise in your sandwich? We created an app that tells people not to put a mayonnaise. Like the smallest thing. You create a problem, and right now I'm making you scared of writing, and you say, I have the solution. So in writing, in the technical writing, you might not be appealing so much to the emotion, but you do appeal to, there is a need for this thing I did or that I researched. So here's how you address that. So by now you're really worried about writing, but you're like, okay, if I have a plan, a deadline, and somebody to bounce ideas off of, so that person is going to help me figure out, to whom am I writing? What do I want to accomplish with that? And then when I do my writing, I give it to him or her, and they comment on something, and hopefully they have some flaw, which is what will make it better. All right, so on that plan, on the writing plan, let's break it down. So when you think of primary articles, which is something that somebody did research on, they had some ideas, some funding, they researched that, and now they're going to write it up, right? So this is already, the things have been done. It's different from writing research grants, where you find a problem, you find a way you want to address it, and then you say how you will address the problem. But then on our writing plan is, okay, I have a plan, I have this list of stuff that I need to fill in. So with my students, what I do is they write the parts, right? You make this skeleton. I don't know if I can, when I show this, if it shows, but you make the skeleton, and not every field has the same type of structure. A lot of the papers I read have abstract, introduction, materials and methods, results, discussion, conclusion, and the references. They're not always the same in every field, but it's kind of conserved, what shows up. So you might wonder, what should I write in each of them? Maybe you know what an abstract is, maybe you don't know. Maybe the high schoolers don't know. I don't know you guys, so I don't know how much you know. But if you want to know this by parts, you can click on this link here, and this image is a clickable image, and then it will tell you what goes in the abstract, what's in the introduction, and then there will be more like little recipes of what to include in each of these. So far so good? Yeah. All right. Let's see, can I see more people? Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so for the primary articles, they have more or less that structure. For review articles, they are not having, they don't really necessarily have a method because they are looking at a collection of other papers, and so the structure is less conserved. So there are different ways, different parts to it that you would include, but here is some idea of what is a review article. When I teach my scientific writing class, my students are actually writing review articles. So this comes from this institute at the Ha. It's prestigious institute in Switzerland. And here they're telling, okay, what's a review? If you click on that, you will see this whole document. But the purpose I put this here is not to make you try to read it really quickly right now. What I want you to do is what I put on the screen is to find two words in here in the red box that are the two things that you should always keep in mind when you're writing. And like as a hint, you want to maybe look at like the bold parts first. You think if they're there. If they're not there, then they would be in the inner part. Okay, I'm looking at the chat now to see if you can figure out what are the two words, the two things that you keep in mind when you're writing. All right, you guys are awesome. Good job. So yeah, audience function, audience who and what. Yeah, the who and what are pretty much also the, who is the audience, and then the what is the function. Good job. I'm so proud. You got it. Yeah, that's what I was hoping that you would pick up on, and you did. So that's the right answer. That's the thing. I was like, oh, I can't share this file just yet because, the magic is gonna go away. All right, so here's it summarized as the who, okay, and the what. What do you want these people to learn from you? And when I teach this class for my students, I make them go to this Google form, and then there's an exercise because I like participation, but because we're going to try to compress this, maybe I'll skip this file so that we can spend more time on a different file. But I included it here so in case you're curious, and now we will share this PowerPoint presentation with you. So you're going to see some poorly written paragraph, and you're going to read it, and then you're going to tell me what it says. And this is completely optional. You can do this, and then I can look at your answers because it's a Google form. Or you are like, no, I have other things to do. Fine too. I'm not grading you. And I built this using lots of excerpts from this. This is a much longer page. And I used to tell my students to read this, but then you would discuss it, but nobody reads it, so I just took pieces of it and put it in here. So this is the summarized version, this form. This is the long version if you want to read it. Okay, so let's see, what do you guys think out of these parts of your primary article? And okay, there is not like this is the right answer, but what do you think would be the first part that you're writing? Let's say you already did your research, and now you are writing the paper. How can you access the links after the meeting? So here, let me do this. Let me share. Let me think. Yeah, as long as you're not like going ahead and link. No, I don't want to. You can anybody the link, and you can be viewer copy. There you go. So this is that PowerPoint that I'm going over with you. And then when you click on, let me show you what happens. When you were here and you were like, I'm so curious. You're welcome. I'm glad you're interested. If you're like, I'm so curious what this looks like, then you're going to click on that. And do you guys see my Google form? Yeah. So you're going to be taken to this page, and these are the parts that I took from the Nature Citable page. And here's like, I always talk a little bit, make the students do something. Read that, do something. So it's completely optional. It's for you. Okay, so what do you think would be your first part of a paper to write? All right, so Henry says introduction. Some people say conclusion. Yeah, I guess if you already finished your analysis, you could write your conclusion. All right, materials and methods. Some people start with the materials and methods, yeah? So the introduction, you already have it in your head because you already know why you are doing that, and you could write it later. So yeah, good. I was thinking, will somebody write abstract? Which the abstract is actually the last thing that I would do, and that's my approach, which is how can I summarize this, and every sentence of the abstract will carry a lot of weight because this is the very summary of it, right? So when I write the introduction first, just because when I'm writing the introduction, sometimes I'm actually even still have this question, and I'm trying to see what parts of the question already have been answered, and what hasn't been answered, and how could I answer that. When I'm writing my introduction, I'm actually doing the planning on how am I going to approach it. So in the introduction, these are the parts that I include in the introduction. First thing I write down is the purpose of my writing, and I will change the order later, but I write the purpose so that I remind myself why I'm doing that. Because when you get really in the thick of it, sometimes your mind gets lost. Oh, 254. Okay. So then there's an attention getter, which in your case, I try to do the attention getter in here. So my attention getter and my creating a hole, digging a hole to fill it was here. Is to say, you need this workshop. So you wanted to make the reader be interested and wanting to hear more. And the thesis statement, there's also a Google form associated with that, is something that you are going to include, but you can only really write a good thesis statement if you already know the conclusion of what you've done. So I see that we are almost out of time, but let me see. Maybe I'll go over these guys. And then wherever we are in 5 minutes, then we'll continue on Friday. Okay, so here
I think we have until 3:30 because we started at 2:30, right?
Yeah, you're right. Okay, thank you. I was like, oh my God, it's been an hour. Okay, I apologize. I'm a little old. Thank you. Okay, good. So a little like, oh, I didn't realize we had so many technical problems in our technical writing class. Okay, so good. Thanks, Jeline. When we have the writing plan, right? So I start with the introduction. Normally, you could start on the materials and methods, but definitely you want to have the results before you do a discussion, for example. So this order is not firm, but this is something that I use. And then the abstract would be the last thing that I would write, because by the time you write the abstract, the idea of the paper is very firm in your head, and you already know what are the highlights. And this figure, I didn't produce it. It's stored in this link here, but it's a paper from the journal Nature. So there was an abstract in some paper. This is the abstract. And then they are saying each part, this sentence is the basic introduction, this many sentences. So this is like the structure and then an example. So I like this figure because it shows you the expected structure for an abstract in the journal Nature. And it doesn't have to be that way, but I just kind of like recipes of things that work. So if you were looking for recipes for things that work, that people in Nature, the journal Nature said this is a nice structure that is concise enough and informs people. So another aspect besides the content, right? Besides this part of making everything concise and let people know some background and why the problem is important, and in the abstract, what did you find in the end? You need to pay attention to format. So I'll give you a minute to read this. So this is a joke. Now, the XKCD is always jokes, but you always learn. I learned things from them. There's even a site that is XKCD explained. If you didn't understand why, that's funny. But the point that why I put this figure here, is to say that the technical writing has a specific format, and if you read enough of it, then you've been introduced in this. What is it called? This group of people that do things on that same way. And then if you read something that is not scientific but is formatted like that, you're going to feel like it's scientific. So that's the joke of this. But the point is to tell you that format is really important. And I used to think that people get this because you guys do read lots of papers. But maybe you don't realize that there's a specific format that people use, and it's not by choice. It's because this is what you're supposed to do. So since we do have time, then let's do this exercise together. So then you can have a break of listening and then doing something. You click on this Google form, on the Google form exercise, and it's going to be about how we do in-text citations, and there's some other format that I included in here. So let's see, I'll give you, let's see how long this is. I think probably in 10 minutes, maybe, 10 minutes or 15, you'll be done with this. So let's see, at 3:10, I'll check on you again. I mean, I'll be here. You can be chatting with me, but we'll work on this. Do you guys have access to this file? It's called Google Form Exercise about Format and Scientification. No?
When I click on the form, it says you need permission.
Okay. Let me change the permissions. Okay, not that one. That one I also have to change the permissions, I guess. That's the one. Okay. All right, then let me know if it allows you to do it. Then I'll do it the same for this one. Yeah, that one I did.
Yep, we're good. We can access it now.
All right, thank you. So okay, 3:10. If you're done, you let me know. Actually, I can see here how many people, I guess. I don't remember if I don't collect email if it tells me how many. I think it tells me how many, just not who. So because it doesn't matter to me. So let me know if you have comments or questions. I'm just letting you work on the exercise for now. Guys, should we go over the answers? Yeah. Okay, so let me share the screen again. Oh, I can't do two at once? Yes, I can. Oh, good. All right. So for this first one, the reason why I wrote this question is because when I teach the writing class, I grade my students on their writing, and in the grading rubric, I put points for did you do your in-text citation correctly, and then there are points for the bibliography. And the students sometimes don't know what I mean by in-text citation versus bibliography. So the in-text citation is you're writing, for example, your introduction, and you are saying what some other paper talked about. Maybe it's your own earlier paper or somebody else's paper, and you're referring to that. Then within that text, you're going to call that paper by the first author's name, or if it's a two-author paper, then both of the authors. If it's 100 authors, which such papers do exist, then you still only do the first author and then et al. So that is in the in-text citation. The bibliography is what comes in the end. So let me show you what I mean by that. The bibliography, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm going over this guy here. So I'm assuming you can see the screen. So the bibliography part is this last part here. That when I was your age, I was in the times that you had to make photocopy of papers. Like I would go to the library, find the paper on the shelf, make copies, and I only had so much money to make copies. And then where would I save money? Sometimes I wouldn't copy all the references, and then I would realize that something is cited in here, and I need that. What is that citation? I have to go back to the library, so that was not good money to save. But the references part is this last one that is, okay, what is the reference that is in there so that somebody that wants to find a paper can find that specific paper. But you're not going to include this whole information within your introduction. So that's why there's something called an in-text citation, which is different from the bibliography cited. So let's see, back to this guy here. I still want to have this up. Okay, too many windows. So what is an in-text citation? This one is an in-text citation. It's something that you'd read in the body of your paper. This one is not. This is what will be in that blue last part. That's the literature cited. And this is a little like, I'm not sure, but yeah, if you're writing a review paper and maybe you actually wanted to say where within that paper you found some information, you could include that table 1. So this would be an in-text citation. So let's see how you guys did. Pretty well, good job. So these people here, they're so glad to be here right now because now they know that that's not an in-text citation. That one is a citation, so this third one goes in the end of the paper. It doesn't go in your writing of the paper when you're talking about this work. You don't put all of that, right? You just say Jones and the year, and you're going to assume that this is a one-author paper. Oh, it is a one-author paper because you only wrote Jones. But then a lot of science is done in groups. So you have to use, if it's multiple, you use et al. Let's see how you guys did. All right, so everybody knows about et al. Good job. So let's move on. I guess I also gave you the answer, but maybe you already knew that. And somebody wrote et al., but the trick here is what the other people realized. This is only two authors. So you put both of the authors' names in your in-text citation. So if you are talking about, this is my cousin, if you talk about Tombolacto and Costa, because it's only two people, why you just save them, not write that second person's name? So a two-author paper, you refer to it by both authors' names. If it's more than two, some papers, some journals want you to put all three names. Let's say it's 3 people. But if it's, some journals say, no, just put the first one et al. So the three is like, maybe you do it all, maybe you do all three names. But if it's more than three, it's always just the first name, the first author's last name, and then et al. Okay, let's see. Oh, that's good. This one, if you're very divided, that means you don't know. I like when you don't know because then I feel like I hit the sweet spot. I'm not telling you everything you already know. So let's say you were looking at coronavirus, and you're on the CDC website. I had students writing about vaccines. So you visited the website in March of 2021, but the website said updated December 2020. So, and it's the name of the website or the text is referring to was COVID vaccine data, but it was on the CDC website. So your answer here is you'd have to write, refer to it as Center for Disease Control 2020. That's how you say, it's the Center of the Disease Control 2020 says that these are the rates or whatever it is that you're talking about. In your in-text citation, you would do this one. So let's see. You guys that answered yellow, you are right. Okay? And I can see how there's a big split on people are like, maybe I use the title of the website. But generally, you're going to refer to things by the author, and the author, unless there is an author that wrote for the CDC, then you'd use that person's name. If there's a person's name, you would use the name of the organization. So let's see, this next one is, okay, in the bibliography, that last list of stuff that you looked up, right? Remember the thing that was in a blue box in that paper that is colored with boxes? Maybe it's only in my head, but maybe you know what I'm talking about. Then you looked at data in 2021, but the data were published in 2020 by the CDC. So author, and if there was a person's name, you'd put the person's name instead, and then you'd put the organization. But if there isn't a person's name, then you put the organization, when it was published, the title, and when did you visit it? Because websites can change. It's not printed, so it can change. So that's why you put when did you visit that. So the answer is that one. So let's see. Center for Disease Control 20 is the yellow one. Oh, good job. You guys, the yellow people, you were right. Okay, so let me see what you said in terms of making changes. Okay. One more thing maybe before I move on. In here, I'm showing you another style. Instead of your in-text citation being first name or first author's last name at all, it's numbers. And, well, that one's. So, like that, or references 24, 48, 77. So it's referring to, so in the bibliography here, the citations would be numbered. And maybe they're numbered alphabetically, maybe they're numbered by the order in which they appear in the text. Who decides that, which format to appear? It's the journal that you are submitting this to. Unless you're not submitting to a journal, then it's you. When I was younger, I liked the numbers because I felt that having all the authors' names in the middle took away from the message. But now I know that who did the work also carries meaning, so now I prefer the last name in there. Oh, yeah, okay. So now I want to see what you guys answered in here. And this is a paper from a student of mine. And he's a PT now anyway. He's a really good student. So proud of him. And you can imagine it was an interesting paper, but I was like, your paper is great, but it has problems with formatting. May I use that? So you could be doing great science, but then when you write, if it's not in the format, people go, it's the opposite of the XKCD little cartoon that says, oh, if it's formatted so well, I'm going to believe it better. It's the cartoon is saying. So this one, it just needed the change in format. Let's see, should the name the figure? Yeah, he should name this like figure 1 or figure 2 instead of saying the figure below. Right, and the description should be shorter. Yeah, it's shorter, so it should be more concise. And if you saw, I put the answer down here, which is like, this was my grading of his paper, like, change this, then change that. And here you go. These are my comments, but I want to see what you guys picked up on. Yeah, don't say chart below. I read like a master's thesis that was a really good master's thesis, very interesting, but always like the table below, the chart below, never. It's figure 1, figure 5. It's either figure or table. We don't call them chart. Put the time to the screen. Yeah, I can see you guys picked up on that. I'm happy. Good job. I'm liking what I'm reading. Yeah, the graphs, the data are okay. It was more like the way to present that was bad. So yeah, we would like these to be tighter, right? But the data are the data. You can't really just pick whatever you like. That's called pseudoscience. Right, good job. I'm happy to see you picked up on the format and then on the citation, the in-text citation. And one thing that you guys didn't pick up, it's being nitpicking, but that's my personality, is that data is actually plural. So if you say this data, that's incorrect. You're supposed to say these data. So that's why I put this cartoon here, which is like, okay, if you only have one data point, that is actually a bigger problem than just referring to it incorrectly. But since my PhD advisor corrected whenever I was saying data is, it's like, no, data are, then here I am passing the baton and correcting you. But you could see papers that are published that say data is, even though it's not strictly correct. But since I'm teaching on writing, I decided that I would point that out. Okay, good. Then I hope you enjoyed that exercise. This is my attempt to make you participate a little bit. And then in the last 5 minutes, we'll go over there was a comment in the chat that the data is and data are. I think that's what that is about, the correcting my husband. I didn't know if that was in general or if it just applied to the data is and data are. So, yeah. Okay, in summary, let's do, how do I do full screen? I'm just going to do like this. Yes, that's right. Okay, so you want to know your audience, know what you're writing and why. Write for yourself the objective. So sometimes you have to look back up to that so that you remember why you started this. Maybe not only science, maybe like lots of things. Why am I doing this stuff? The other thing that helps is set deadlines. So my deadline was 2:30 p.m. today, and I'm like, oh, now I really need to get this presentation together. Because even though I've been teaching this writing class for 10 years, now it's only 2-hour class. So even though I know what I'm doing, I should make it concise. So if you are going to procrastinate, use your time in a productive way, and you read XKCD and PhD comics. The PhD comics I read when I was writing my dissertation or doing the PhD, I don't know, it just offered emotional comfort. And the XKCD comics, I actually learned some stuff from it, and it's a fun way of learning math and science. So even though I'm telling you set a deadline so you don't procrastinate, I'm giving you ideas of, but if you're going to procrastinate to do these things, not that I do it. Know that the different journals are going to have different formats. So you need to, if you already know to which journal you're going to submit your work, you have to look, okay, what is the format expected? That way you save yourself the trouble of having to go back and change the citation format, either the in-text or the bibliography, because the bibliography also changes. Some places want last name, year, title. Some places last name, title, year. So that changes depending on the journal. So look at the venue you want to publish. Look how they want things so that you can save yourself time. And then you have somebody that will help you to have a friend, a colleague, an advisor, or a wife or husband look at your stuff and see what they have to say. So then you're supposed to not take it personal. If they care, they will make lots of comments. Yes, I bought that What If. I bought 2 copies of What If. So it's always personal. Okay, and in terms of receiving feedback and not taking it personal, but it's to help you. That's why people do this, like paint it in red, paint your paper in red. My students are like, but I'm like, if I didn't care, I wouldn't be writing all these comments. I'll be like, it's great. So you guys, if you have a moment, I'd like you to give me feedback. It's not anonymous. I just put a link for my email that I welcome your feedback so that you can write to me. I don't know what helped, what was old news. Maybe you already knew all that. And then, and here's like a list of resources for you. So some of these are writing review papers because that's what my students write. And then while preparing for this, and since I always look for XKCD or PhD comics, then I found out the guy that writes PhD comics that drew the cartoons, or his cartoons were used in this book. Then I bought this book last night and I read it, only a third of it today, and I like it. So I thought I would recommend it to you, especially if you're going to stay in science. It's like ideas on publishing and how the publishing process works. But the part I really liked, that even though I've been teaching writing for a while, I didn't know, was like the history of technical writing. I'm like, this is so great. Anyway, that's that book. On Kindle is like $10. So, because I wanted it now. And then here is a paper that I was reading on how to teach writing, and it was by the paper is in the Zotero list, which is like offer something bad because it's easy to spot the bad things. But this paper here had a table, and these are just screenshots of the table. You can go to the paper here, but I thought I would put it here in case you don't have access to the paper, which are like problems that are found in papers and reasons why papers can be rejected. So like there are lots of them. So these are all from that. But I thought I would provide you a laundry list of what not to do. So, yay, 3:30. Right in, Mark.
Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to talk to us. We're super excited for Friday when we get to learn more about Zotero and learn about that. I personally love Zotero, so for all of you who are wondering, what in the world is this? Should I go to this? You should. It will help you so much.
Yes.
But yes, thank you so much for your presentation today, and yeah,
It was nice meeting you guys. See you Friday.
bye.
Bye.